Y'all, I'm not lying when I say this. This might have been one of the hardest gaming things I've ever had to do. I probably had to like click and drag about 50,000 times to make this video possible. Now, I will say that this was about an 8-hour run. Quite insane, but the result was pretty cool. The goal in this game, I thought that the max HP you could have is 10 billion. So the goal in this game was to be able to do more damage in one tick before anything else, to be able to deal over 10 billion damage, because in my eyes that would make it so you literally cannot beat this build. The best you can do is tie, which is pretty cool, and it would beat every other build in the entire game, assuming this is the case. Now, how we got there is pretty cool, and like I said, there's going to be some parts that are almost 10x speed, just so you can see that, you know, there's no funny business going on. It's just all pure grit and determination to report the grind as it happened. If you're watching this, then the next video will be my review for Oaken Tower. I might come back to it when there is an update. However, I feel like I kind of hit everything I wanted to with the game so far, but this is going off with quite the bang. I will add some chapters in here, however, most of the game is pretty important for the strategy. Now, what is the strategy, you may be asking? So the strategy was actually by Mr. Jalapeno himself on Reddit. He posted himself getting 100 out of 100 endless win. He didn't lose a single match the entire time, and he went at 1,000 cuts build, using witch potions with candles to scale up the damage without needing dark necklaces and stuff. You literally just scale it through having a bazillion potions. Now, the problem with this, and what I ran into when I first tried this strategy, is I had like an hour and a half run going pretty well. I got about 37,000 potions and like 150 candles, and as soon as I right clicked a single time, my game froze. And I was like, okay, maybe it'll be able to you know, kind of recover, because I had never had my game actually crash. However, 2.5 hours later, still frozen. So we restarted, and this is the run that was good enough. Afterwards, we got pretty lucky getting, you know, pretty much all gold generators. We were getting like 100 gold a round, and we were waiting to get some debuffs to amplify our simple curses. Now, I don't necessarily think that this strat will be meta. It was more so, you know, just something that Jalapeno came up with and I thought was pretty cool. So I kind of wanted to showcase it, you know, as a last hurrah. But like I said, my wrist was hurting like crazy by the end of this. And you'll see in 10x speed, it looks like, you know, insanity. So if it worked like that, then it's going to be pretty crazy to see it, you know, to think about the fact that it was 8 hours pretty much, right? So yeah, pretty insane. So at this point, we got our simple curses, we got you know, a way to reduce the cooldown, and we're just going to start generating some potions. The whole point is to get your, you know, full build kind of as soon as you possibly can, and then go from there. Now, I am not necessarily going to be speeding up the early game, as if you did want to do it yourself, I want you to be able to see all of the kind of decisions that I made. Now, the nice thing about this is it doesn't require that much resetting. If you don't care about, like, you know, taking a loss or two early, you either lose or win early, and you pretty much will know if it's a run or not. However, the perks don't matter as much, because there's a lot that you can do that'll make, you know, the run possible. However, I would say, like, you know, you don't necessarily, like, I wouldn't say you should go the magic buff. If you really wanted to go one, I would probably recommend going the melee, just because 25% damage increase is pretty good, and it would have served me pretty good as well, especially when we're talking upwards of 10 billion damage, right? That's 2.5 billion extra damage for free. So I mean, it's really hard to pass that up. Now I got the Lost Fragment. This is when the potions start to get crazy. So I wanted to make sure that I was getting multicast on it while also reducing the the cast time, and it was in my magic slot, which was lucky that it was in the middle slot because that is a decent chunk. I'm pretty sure it's 25% faster, so like 1.25 seconds faster as well. So really scaling it up pretty quickly. Did it make the difference? Maybe, not necessarily, but it definitely made a difference. So that's pretty cool. There isn't that much more to say about this early game. It's really just going full economy mode, trying to stay somewhat strong while having very little damage. Once you play Witch enough, you can kind of feel, your tempo, and when your Night Bloom, which is the Witch's shield, is scaled enough with healing and shielding, then you're pretty much covering all your bases, except for maybe Burn. But you'll probably beat most poison builds, unless it's like, a super Elven Rod or something, or Elven Shield that's been multicasted like crazy, while having, most of your multicast plus attack speed on your potion generator. That way you can keep scaling the shield without having to worry about it too much. Luckily, I had multicast on my golden shield as well, so I am making gold, and I did have a 1-star knife that gave me about 36 gold every fight, guaranteed, because we were killing so slowly. This is around the point that I would say is close to mid-game. It is my first 3-star. However, I would say it definitely wasn't necessarily needed. But of course, I mean, a 3-star is good to have, and it triples my income from the golden shield. You know, how long will the golden shield stick around? We'll have to wait and see. However, for the time being, it is a nice boost, and it does help with my income as well. As, you know, late game, I'm going to have literally 0 second, you know, not even one tick fights, right? So, you know, income is all that matters at that point. However, hopefully by that point in the game, gold won't matter and we can just kind of scale through all of the fights. But we are at the mid game, and soon we'll be at the end game, and then 10x speed, go crazy mode. Now, for me personally, this is a pretty early time to be getting Mimic Rod. Once you get this, like let's say you have around 200 free rerolls, I would say start looking for this setup no matter what time it is. Once you have this Mimic Rod with a Lost Fragment on 1 second under it, you're most likely going to get around 500 to 1,000 of whatever's above it. And if you just put a Potion Belt above it, you will be in good shape for this setup. And then of course you're going to want to double up if you're really trying to scale it as fast as possible. Pretty much all you want to do at this point is do 0 damage and just Mimic Rod copy as many Potion Belts as you possibly can. Now keep in mind there is a bit of, I don't know if it's a bug or the game can't handle it or whatever, but once you have too many Potion Belts or too many potions, if you right click, you might just crash your game and have to restart the whole run from the beginning, which is not ideal, especially if you got lucky, right? So yeah, I would say definitely you're probably gonna not want to do this once you see how intense it is on your hands, because let's just say it ends up becoming a lot of manual labor. Not to spoil anything, but when you don't want to crash, you're gonna have to make sacrifices, and that's kind of what we do when we're on the grind here on the Grind Reporter channel. So if you are enjoying this and you appreciate the grind, then like, comment, subscribe, and I really appreciate that. At this point, we kind of have our full setup ready. Now we're just going to be getting to around 10,000 potions and then starting to apply them. Remember, the most important thing is you have a astral hammer and 1,000 cuts, and you have them both 1 star and 2 like 0 stars. That way, when they combine, it basically triples together. So you put witch on all 3. And then when you finish your item, which I do make some mistakes along the way and accidentally combine them and whatever, but in the ideal world, they stay, you have 3,000 cuts and 3 astral hammers, and one's 1 star, 2 or 0 stars of each of them. And then eventually when you're completely done scaling, you turn them into 2 star and then you turn them into 3 star and you just win the game. So that's the ideal. Now, I will say it is a bit of a mind flip to see the purple, like, you know, you can upgrade this in the shop for basically the whole game, with when, you know, having my 1,000 cuts and my astral hammer 1 away from 2 star. However, you know, you're going to have to, if you're making this strategy and you're trying to make it work, you're going to have to kind of just deal with it, because you do still have to use the shop and just avoid that. So that is another thing that is not ideal for the strategy. However, you know, if you can make it happen, then more power to you. Alrighty, y'all, the candles are introduced, and with that, it's lag time. We are about to speed up 10x just because it literally froze my PC by like, when I started right clicking because I didn't know about the manual method, then it was freezing my PC for minutes at a time every right click. So even just throwing these on, you can see, you know, sparkles everywhere, everything's going crazy. It'd be nice to be able to kind of reduce the particles. However, that this is, you know, a newer game, so stuff like that is not necessarily fully optimized. However, maybe in the future, or maybe it won't be, because this is a pretty niche strategy. I'm not sure there's that many people that are even willing to put the time in. I just personally like to have, you know, feel like I had one of the best builds. Now, it is interesting to note that this does end up being stronger, almost 2 times stronger than Jalapeno's undefeated run. However, this was played on 0.3.8.1. However, I think the patch happened like midway through or something, because this ended up going overnight, and then I finished the run in the morning, and I think the matchmaking was fixed or increased or something along those lines. At least in the patch notes from today, it does say endless later stages is improved, which I guess means that I'm just facing the hardest mother suckers of all time. So do with that what you might. It's still cool, but I don't think I'll be going for 100 wins in a row endless if, you know, it kind of purposely puts you against stuff that counters you or whatever. I don't know what was changed, but that's kind of how it felt. So you're going to see that when we do start fighting, it's a lot of 1,000 cuts builds. I don't remember seeing that many. However, maybe that's the new meta that, you know, in the week that I beat endless and then, you know, worked on my other channel or worked on the written guide, then that's maybe what became the meta. But we'll see what we can get to in this. And I tried to cut out the longer moments of freezes. However, you know, every click was, so it would be, rather than it being super jarring, I just put it on 10x speed, and you can see for yourself. I mean, this is 10 times faster than it was in real life. And obviously I have to stay by my computer because every time it you know, uses the potion, I have to click another one. There's no automation here really. And yeah, I mean, we just had to make it work. So I'm going to let you enjoy the music again. I do take some fights. However, it shouldn't be too hard to follow along, just because literally all I was doing was trying to get more potions. So, you know, I think Jalapeno had so many in his run that he didn't do like multiple things. I think by round 23 or 28 or something, he pretty much was good for the game. However, I wanted to do that 10 billion, as I thought that that was the max HP you possibly could have. And then I was going to title the video something like, you know, nobody can ever beat this build or something like that. However, you know, we're gonna have to see if that's actually the case. Now, there was a cut there because I didn't want to, I think I stayed up for a couple hours and I didn't really want to spend, you know, hours on end of a recording just because of space on my computer. Now, as you can see, when I came back, I started employing the manual method. So pretty much for the rest of the video, while on 10x speed, you're going to see me manually clicking and dragging every single potion onto the item. And yeah, so we do refill a couple times. You know, as you can see right now, our backpack's getting to about 750. However, we're gonna go to 10,000 again, and we're gonna have to just go back to clicking. But definitely is a little jarring, so if you don't like the flashing, then feel free to skip through, as I will have, you know, kind of the end of the scaling time, you know, timed or in chapters on my channel in this video. So if there's, you see chapters, you can go ahead and look to when we fully scaled, how, you know, how the fights go, because I will put those on 1x speed so you can see exactly how fast, once this build is scaled, you can get through fights. So once again, thank you for watching. If you want to support me and my wrist pain from recording this episode, please like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what game you want me to play next. Let me know what you think I'm going to rate Oaken Tower in my next video, which will be my review, as that will be kind of the report of the grind. I have 136 hours on Oaken Tower now, and I feel pretty accomplished within that. I didn't get Grandmaster, but that's because when I was 4,500 or 5,000 elo, I started going for Endless, and for some reason I did it in Ranked, and I lost all my rating. And I don't feel like going for it again, unless, of course, that is something that the community wants, then I will. But as you can see, we're just getting our potions back, and then we're going right back to it. So the nice thing about this is, since we're winning instantly, we are kind of scaling Pandora's, kind of not. But we get Pandora's in a couple different slots, and then late game, you're going to see we literally just stop using Mimic Rod and just go for one-shots while having Pandora's give us what we need. Now, this is a huge mistake, huge mistake. We had the Astral Hammer and the 1,000 Cuts in the Pandora slot. If you're ever going to do this, do not put it in the Pandora slot, because that upgraded them, and I had to restart on completely new Astral Hammers and 1,000 Cuts. Now, I did keep the other ones just in case, you know, they had enough damage that I would want to keep them. However, a very big mistake here. This is my first time fully going for the run, and like I said, unless, you know, this video goes crazy, I can't really see myself doing this again because my hand hurts. So yeah, but as you can see, we're putting everything back on. You got to make sure everything has crit. You got to make sure, I think the 1,000 Cuts automatically gets 100% crit if you get it to 3 stars. However, one right click also in this game could have just straight up ended it. You have to remember that if you don't, okay, if you're going to do this, right, and you want to do the candles, you have to sell your potion belts before you right click, or maybe even left click could crash your game, because you're going to have thousands of potion belts, and the candles 3-star are going to try to put all this AD or damage or whatever you want to call it onto the potion belts, and you will most likely crash your game, considering this was somewhat laggy, even having like maybe 10 items that were getting stuff. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to do this, do it very cautiously, do the manual way. If you don't want to do it the manual way, plus, you know, without ever using right click, plus, you know, selling your potion belts before using any potions and stuff like that, then I highly recommend not trying this strategy. As you'll see, there are other builds that could compare, maybe even a little bit better in this run. So yeah, I doubt those guys spent 50,000 clicks trying to get to their build, but you never know. So one thing also that you can do that I realized from this is, if you click close enough to one of the potions, you can actually like kind of insta use it when you click it, and that's kind of the cheesiest way to do the, you know, left click without moving your mouse compared to the right click, or compared to the left click and dragging. Now, that might sound like a bit of a nothing burger. However, when you are clicking as much as I did and dragging as much as I did, it matters a lot. So you're going to see that, you know, whatever wasn't a targetable, I would try to just left click, you know, where it says pouch, kind of at the top of that extra inventory part, where those poison potions are right now. You basically just put your mouse as close to the top as you can and just spam left click. And if it works, you're very happy. If it doesn't work, you're very sad. But yeah, I mean, literally just use whatever potions you can. It doesn't really matter anymore. As you can see right now, I'm doing it. Boom. Just went through all those potions just like that. I'm doing it again. You don't actually have to be fully on it. Your potion just kind of has to touch it, which is not that hard if you can get it in that top. But unfortunately, you can't choose where it goes. So I kind of just, if it wasn't any utility potions to use up there, then I would kind of, you know, just have to drag, and it is what it is. So yeah, that's enough yapping for now. I'm probably just going to let you see the rest of the 10x speed, and then I will talk again when we go to the fights, as there are a couple key fights that I want you to see. All right, y'all, we have made it to the fully scaled part. Now, it is something to note that my astral hammers, I did mess up. I would say it's probably around 200 million weapon damage that I missed out on, which is about 1.2 billion damage. And then, obviously, if you count the execute, it's quite a lot of damage to be missing. However, there's nothing you can do at this point, and we're 8 hours in, so we're just gonna go with it. So at this point, we also want to get rid of these Pandora slots just so it's not as annoying when we win. However, I will say, you know, we are still kind of reaching that 10 billion, according to Jalapeno, who did the math for me. Very nice of him. I asked him in one of his posts how much he had, and I said how much I had, and he said it would be around 11 billion damage in one tick. So that's pretty cool. So as you can see, we are rolling to get these inks. If you don't know, inks are the black dye that you can put on an item to make it a 100-second cooldown, but one of the things most people maybe don't know is you can put it on a slot buff or like a tower buff to completely remove the effect. So at this point, I'm trying to remove the Pandoras. That way it looks a little more clean when we win our fight, to just be able to go into the next one. And now I know I do miss a couple inks along the way. I was pretty tired at this point, so you're gonna forgive me for that. our first fight against someone over 10 billion HP. Mr. H&H William, shout out. He had 17 billion HP, and now why I was confused is I'm pretty sure it says 12 billion out of 10 billion, which would make me think that 10 billion was the max, and I could have sworn that last patch it would always say 10 billion out of 10 billion. If you look at my other endless run, you could see what I'm talking about. So it was a little surprising, and if that was last patch, then I think I would have been able to beat literally everybody. As you can see, we are beating people's billions of HP, just not over 10 billion. So very unfortunate for the run. However, it is interesting. And if you want to see me go over 10 billion, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you are enjoying the content, please like the video. We have a 900,000 gold. I mean, who else is getting 900,000 gold? Come on now. Once again, we are facing someone with over 10 billion. Unfortunate. However, it is what it is, and there's not much we can do about it. He seemed to be cooking a little bit. As you can see, I was kind of looking like there's no way this guy actually has over 10 billion, but he did. So we're at 92. Will we be able to get all the way? We're gonna have to wait and see. Thank you for watching so far into the video. And this is by far the most HP I've ever seen. This guy had 25 billion HP. Yeah, that's quite the high roll. Mr. Game Bounty. Good for that guy. Sad for me. But that's going to be the end of the run. I cannot believe that I was doing basically 10 billion damage if you include the execute on the first tick of the game, and it wasn't enough to get us to 100 days. Quite baffling. However, this is still, by far probably my strongest run if you count. This would have completely whooped my last run with just how much damage it did on the start. And last patch, assuming there wasn't this, over 10 billion, this would have been an unbeatable build. The best you would be able to do is tie it. So let me know what you think of this build in the comment section below. And if you did get this far, please like the video, as the support is greatly appreciated.